Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're totally demystifying JavaScript functions. So, when you're looking at like thousands of lines of code, and you just kind of wonder, how on earth do programmers keep it all organized without losing their minds? Or, their hair? Well, the absolute secret weapon here is functions. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 4 main stops: the power of functions, building a JavaScript function, parameters and arguments, and finally, we'll settle the whole return versus console.log debate once and for all.
All right, let's jump into part 1, the power of functions, the big picture. So, what actually is a function? Well, think of it basically like a recipe. You write it out once, and it performs a highly specific task whenever you need it to. You definitely don't rewrite an entire recipe every single time you bake a cake, right? You just follow the instructions you already jotted down. And really, that is exactly what a function does for your computer program.
And honestly, functions are basically your code's superpowers. They literally rescue you from the nightmare of messy, repetitive spaghetti code. By breaking down big, overwhelming problems into smaller bite-sized tasks, which, by the way, is a process called decomposition, you save an incredible amount of time. Since everything is chopped up into these specific little blocks, it is so much easier to test things and fix any bugs that pop up. The whole shebang just leads to highly reliable programs and, best of all, effortless code reuse.
Moving right along to part 2, building a JavaScript function, the anatomy.
Let's systematically deconstruct this. Think of this as your assembly manual. Step 1, you just start with the function keyword and give it a logical name. Step 2, add some empty brackets. Step 3, open up your code block with a curly brace. Now step 4 is where the magic actually happens. That's where you drop in your real code. Step 5, close it all up with another curly brace. And finally, whenever you actually want to fire up this little machine, just call its name, followed by those brackets.
When you see these mechanics color-coded in a JavaScript environment, it just clicks. You've got that red function keyword signaling that, hey, we're defining a subroutine right now. Then comes our cleverly chosen name, say hello. The empty brackets are sitting right next to it, and those curly braces are neatly containing our console.log command. It is just super clean and perfectly structured.
Now, there is a massive distinction between just defining your instructions and actually triggering them. When we outline the function up top, the computer is really just memorizing it for later. It's literally doing nothing else. It's not until we actually write out "say hello world" down in our main program that we command the computer to execute those stored instructions. So remember, defining it stores it, but calling it executes it.
Which brings us to part 3, parameters and arguments, feeding the machine.
Okay, so what if we want our function to greet a specific person instead of just spitting out a generic hello? We need a way to feed dynamic data into our machine. And here's the absolute best way to master this vocabulary. Just think of parameters as empty parking spaces and arguments as the actual cars parking in them. When you create the function, you put parameter names inside the brackets as placeholders. They're just telling the function, hey, expect some info here. Then, when you actually call the function later, you provide the real values. And those real values, those are your arguments.
It's so elegant when you look at how this plays out in the code. Up top, in the function greet, name is our empty parking space. That's the parameter. Down below, when we call greet Alice, the word Alice is the argument that literally parks in that space, which gives us hello Alice. And the cool part? Swap it out for Bob, and the code adapts instantly. No rewriting the core logic required.
Think about the flawless handoff of data happening here. The parameters up top are basically asking, okay, what do I need to do my job? And the answer is a num1 and a num2. Down below, the arguments respond right here. Here's the data. The 11 maps directly into the first slot, and the 9 flies right up into the second slot. It's a totally seamless exchange.
All right, let's move into our final stretch, part 4, return versus console.log, the output dilemma.
This is honestly the biggest stumbling block for beginner coders. If we have a perfectly good machine doing our calculations, why on earth do we need anything beyond a simple print command? A lot of people just rely entirely on console.log. It prints the answer, we see it, and boom, feels like the job is done. So what exactly is the problem we're dealing with here?
Well, there's a massive difference between just showing a finished product to a user versus boxing it up to actually use it again later. Console.log merely displays the result. Once it prints, poof, the value vanishes. It is completely inaccessible to the rest of your program. But the return keyword, now that's a game changer.
It doesn't print anything to the screen directly. Instead, it hands the computed value back to your program like a securely locked package, totally ready for further calculations.
When you compare these two approaches side by side, it really hits home. Using return allows us to take the result of our math and save it into a brand new variable. If you just print 30, the data is gone forever. But because we explicitly return the value, we capture that 30 inside a result variable. And because we have it captured, we can confidently add 100 to it on the very next line. You just can't do that with a console log.
So, just to absolutely hammer this point home, if you only print it, the data vanishes into the ether. But if you return it, you hold onto the power of that data for the entire rest of your program. Don't get me wrong, console.log is fantastic for debugging and checking your work behind the scenes. But if your function is doing any heavy lifting, calculating a total price, formatting user data, checking a password, you absolutely must use return so the rest of your application can actually react to that information.
So to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a quick question to ask yourself about the code you're writing today. Are you just logging your hard work to the console where it immediately disappears? Or are you actively returning your data to build robust, interconnected programs? Master the flow of parameters, arguments, and that all-important return keyword, and honestly, your JavaScript capabilities will be completely limitless. Thanks so much for joining me.